So, I can't believe that you're actually going to go cosplay as Bale Vecht at Plains of War. I'm so excited. I'll make sure to keep it a secret until you announce it. Oh, hi! Welcome! It's the Dusty Auspex, Season 6, Episode 3. The internet calls me Producer Josh. I call him General Douglas McEldar.
Eldar.
This is Kyle Plouffe, one of our regular hosts. You haven't seen him yet in Season 6, but you would have seen him regularly through Seasons 1 through 5. Thank you for joining us. How are you, man?
Doing good, doing good. It's always a pleasure to be here and chatting about 40K. So, I was very excited today.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Our
yeah.
big topic today is preparing your list. You're getting ready for Plains of War. It's about 7 weeks out.
Yeah,
And
this
now
is a crucial time for considering lists.
it's so crucial. Like, I'm looking at a tournament 2 weeks after Plains of War, and I'm still like, what do I build? What do I paint? What am I doing? So we're going to get to that in just a second. But first things first, we've got some quick news and updates for Plains of War. That hotel code has been established. If you book your room with the Holiday Inn Polo Park and give the code Plains of War, you'll be able to get like a significant discount on your room.
Absolutely.
It went from I checked, and went from like 180 to 130 for the night. So
Makes it very affordable. It's a good location, and that way you don't have to worry about your condition after the game. You're not going anywhere. You're just stumbling up to the room.
upstairs. Yeah. No, I was in a Reddit thread a couple weeks ago talking about the positive or negative experiences you might have had at GTs and majors. What's the best one? And like being able to just be at the hotel with tons of free parking, with food on site.
It makes such a gigantic difference.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're in an event where you're playing 5-6 games, maybe more, depending on the size of the event. That really gets crucial, that being able to get there and rest as soon as possible for the next day.
Yes.
Or do the Thurston and just get so slammed that the next day is a drunken haze. Either way.
You'll be able to watch previous episodes of the Dusty Auspex podcast, including episode 2, where we get into Thurston's advanced beer stats, on our Twitch page and fairly soon on our YouTube channel.
I will put out a warning, though. He is blessed by the dice gods, so the beer, it doesn't touch him the same way.
Terrifying.
Yeah, it really is.
Like, I don't know if you caught it, but I worked it out. He drank so much and still scored so much that if I had been performing at his level, scoring the same amount of points in the games, I would have scored 10 points per beer, but his consumption was so awe-inspiring, he was down to 2 points per beer and still got passed over. Like, what?
Oh, at one point he's walking by with 3 beers, and I'm just looking at him like, oh, thirsty.
It's his secret. It is
It really
his
is.
secret.
It's his fuel.
And second point for Plains of War, before I forget, we've got a contest going on.
Yes.
If you check into our posts on Facebook, it'll give the current details, but I believe if you like us on Facebook, write a review on Facebook, and follow us on Twitch, you can qualify for a 25% discount on your POW ticket. A random draw is going to happen soon.
Which is fantastic. Next week we are doing the draws for these, I believe, or the beginning of the draws for these.
So that's going to be fantastic.
Very excited on that as well.
This Saturday, the 40K Bunker Buster is happening. Tell me about your plans for that.
Well, it's hard because right now, what I want to do the most is practice my Plains of War list. I can't really do that until the big FAQ comes out based on some of the rumors there. I don't know exactly what's happening. I don't know if flyers are getting a change. I don't know what's clicking in. So I don't want to go too hard. Instead, what I'm doing is just working on the craft world. I'm doing a pure craft world list. Things that I could see myself running instead of the Dark Elder that I've been doing. Just trying to keep in line with some of the rumors. So, it's going to be a craft world heavy list this weekend. I think goal on this one is to frustrate opponents with durability on my objective holders and to keep out of range with my big hitters.
Excellent. Yeah. I was going to ask, I noticed that you brought Craft World Eldar to Highlander.
Yes.
What has got you going with them instead of the Drukhari? Because if I'm not mistaken, you're like top 100 of the world in Drukhari, right?
Just based on a couple events. So
okay.
Not a lot so far there. But the craft worlds, I've been trying to look at what I use the most out of the lists. And then with the way ITC has shifted how they're doing their best in faction, as well as what tools are available for something like an event for a Highlander. Craft World ended up being the better choice for me because the psychic buffs were what I needed the most.
Yeah.
Drukhari was very, very close second. The volume of firepower that I was able to put out, just absolutely fantastic. What I was lacking there was large vehicle killing power, and again, the psychic stuff for the rerolls.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I'm finding similar things that I like in the craft world that I do in the Drukhari. So
pointed ears.
Yeah, these space elves,
strength
they're
16
really clicking.
guns. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the Bunker Buster this Saturday. Check in on the app using BCP. Send us your lists. It's really important. Again, that's another thing that you can just do in advance and isn't going to be a bother on the day of.
And I definitely want to mention, if you're signed up for Planes of War, get on the BCP app and register as soon as possible. The advantage there is when people are looking at events, they'll look at the BCP app and they'll see how many people are signed up. And it'll inform their choice as to whether or not it's worth traveling for them. So it's kind of in our best interest. We want to be as big as possible. We want to get as many players as possible because, one, bigger pool to work against. And two, you might get some of these really, really high-quality players that normally we don't have the chance to run into. It can be a really good learning experience. So I highly encourage you, if you have signed up for Planes of War, if you're doing so shortly, get your stuff on the BCP app as soon as possible. You can always adjust later what's there. Don't have to put the list right away, just get your name in.
Before I forget, we put up a great video on our YouTube channel, signing in on the BC app, a brief musical. Fabio put together just a great video on how to use everything. It's fantastic. I highly recommend it.
We did notice a couple bumps the last weekend.
Nice. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Okay. We've got a couple more things to get to, and then Professor Grant, I'm going to get to your question in the chat. Echoes of Eternity. This is the last week you can get your Mission 1 scores in. If you do, you qualify to get the dice and objective markers at the end of the league after all 4 missions. And yeah, people have been having themselves a time. We have 1 spot left in the league. We're at 29 players of 30.
That's fantastic.
It's fantastic.
That
and
really is.
Almost everyone has reported their scores. So make sure you get your scores in. Mission 2 launches next Monday. We'll have Cliff Stornell of Games of the North with us, who is a very experienced gamer, very new to wargaming, but he's having a blast in Kill Team.
It's fantastic to hear. I see you guys there on the Fridays at game night, and even in between, I've seen more and more people show up for Kill Team games.
Yes.
It's really fantastic to see. As far as I'm concerned, Kill Team is like your gateway to the rest of it.
And it's a blast. Like, it's a blast for me because, as I've said before, I like getting in 3 games instead of 1. I like the small skirmish size. It's just it's a blast. You've heard me rant about it.
Big advantage.
It really is. But we're gonna save a bunch of that for next week, which will all be all about Kill Team. And lastly, Kyle, quick take on all the Chaos releases recently.
All right, I think this pushes Chaos up to a very interesting place. They actually have a variety of lists available to them now. There's a lot of potential. I don't think it's as big a jump as I would have liked to see for them, necessarily. Like, there are a few things that I would like to see tightened up a little more. Abaddon having more like the reboot style full rerolls, that would have been really nice. But that's kind of wish listing at this point. Overall, I think this is a good bump for them, and you're going to see more than the basic, Magnus plus Chaos Extras, or the Chaos Knights plus Cultists.
Nice. I hear it. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I know one of my teammates, Ryan, he is really pushing hard on the Chaos angles right now. Been doing a lot of practice games over Vassal against Logan, and they are both seeming pretty impressed with what's come out. So
excellent. I hear some talk about, like, 3 of those Lords Discordant, those new things, and some Daemon engines. What's your take on that?
I think that would be a really fun list. There's some potential for some big hits there, and I think it'll catch the majority of lists off balance, not necessarily going to be the top smashing everyone kind of list. But you got a lot of punching power, and there's a lot of cheap demon engines now. Nice. I think the Filers are hovering around 140-some, 150-some points. Same with Mauler Fiends in the 130 range. The Venoms, the Venom Crawlers that they released, those are even very appealing. So, a lot of potential. Excellent. 3 of the big guys, fill it in with your choice of demon engines, and rush them forward for sure. Okay.
So, Professor Grant asks in the chat, looking forward to the big FAQ. How about everyone else?
I am very much looking forward to the big FAQ. What I really want to see there, I mean, there's a couple things I don't want to see, but I know are coming. You're going to see adjustments to the Castellan.
Yeah.
Either in the form of a points adjustment, the invul, or both. You're going to see something with flyers being adjusted.
Okay.
I'm assuming there's going to be something where there's no move blocking, or they restrict how they're move blocked, but you're not going to be able to stop on the base of the flyer. It won't be like, hey, I can string all my guys under you. But you'll still be able to come closer than you can now. Move over it, as opposed to now, where it's just, oh, I'm stopped. There's a giant knight with 2 flyers like this in front of him, and he can't walk any further. It's a little tricky.
Do you think those changes are needed?
Yes.
Okay.
The flyer list, I absolutely think they need to make some adjustment to it.
And you say this as someone who runs a lot of Drakari flyers.
Absolutely. The Eldar flyers are probably the better of the choices right now. Anyone who's played against them really sees that. And for me, I can recognize that there are some things in there that do need a little adjustment. It's ridiculous that I can block off like an entire line of Gene Stealers and make them go all the way around just because I put a few planes in the way.
Mm-hmm.
So if they adjust it to going over the bases but not stopping on it, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
The other thing that might help is an adjustment to the fly rule again. Go back to the big rule book style where in the assault phase, yes, you are jumping over things. That prevents some of the more ridiculous move blocking that's happening right now. It's like, oh, I got a jump pack character, but I accidentally strung this squad too far in front, and now he's got to go all the way around to do his charge.
Okay, that makes sense.
Last one that I think is a really big change that's needed is Mental Onslaught from the Gene Stealer cult. Right now, you can get your buffs to your Leadership 12 or 13. You can drop the opponent down to an easy 6 or 7.
Okay.
It's an insta-kill on anything big. Like, when you get a Knight to Leadership 7 and your guy to the 12 or a 13, it's just going to be mortal wound, mortal wound, mortal wound until it's gone. I'd like to see some kind of system where either it's capped at the number of wounds it can do, 10, 12, or there's still a chance to stop it. Like, you're doing the roll-off against each other. Maybe if the defending guy, not the Gene Stealer cult, can roll a 6, stops it there. Something like that.
Yeah. Now, I know there are some folks who say that doing that setup to make Mental Onslaught capable of picking down a Castellan, having to have these 3 units and these 6 psychic powers all in one place and all go off is like a small enough eye of the needle to justify that. What's your reaction to that?
Having played against it a few times, it's a lot easier to get off than people expect.
Oh, okay.
And you don't even need the full buffs. The Leadership 12-13 example is just the extreme of what you can do. I was a Leadership 7 flyer against Leadership 11, and I still failed every roll. Like, I needed...
Oh, jeez.
If you rolled a 5, or if you rolled a 1, I could have done a 5 or a 6 and succeeded. If you rolled a 2, it had to be a 6. So, see what he rolls. If it's a 1 or 2, I'm doing my roll and seeing, oh, look, it's below that. Well, we're just continuing.
That's fair.
So, it is very powerful. It's very potent against single units. And it's very easy to get your guy in range. Patriarch just pops up 9 inches away. Use the strat to advance if you really want to.
Yes.
But you don't need it. You're 18-inch range.
Yeah.
So I think something like that would be warranted. It's just, I don't know how to make it hit properly so it's not so much of a detriment to the Gene Stealer player. Because it is one of their potent tools for taking down something that, if you're going pure Gene Stealers, it's really hard to do.
Yeah. All right. Fox Fluff in the chat says, is there any way I can qualify for a kiss from Kyle? I have a thing for Canadians whose name starts with K. I love all this nerdy talk. If you write a review of us on Facebook and like our Facebook page and write a review of us on Twitch, you can qualify for a 25% discount to Planes of War and come and meet him. I'm sorry, I'm just a sellout. I'm just a huge sellout.
I'm absolutely okay with this. Fox Fluff, you'll have to travel up here.
Come to Winnipeg. It's a wonderful place. We've got a great community, and we have Kyle, who is an intimidating opponent, and I'm going to stop there. Professor Grant says, no, it doesn't, Smirks. Can you give us some clarify on no, what doesn't? Because unfortunately, I was paying attention to Kyle during that part of the conversation. Hit us up with follow-up to your question. All right, so now we move on to our next topic, our main topic of the day, which is getting your list ready for Planes of War.
Okay. So this is one that has been on my mind very heavily lately as I'm in the early stages of Planes of War.
Yeah.
So for me, I've got a backup list because I did the event in Brandon. I know no matter what, I can kind of default to that, and I've got something that's workable. In between, there's new concepts that I'm working on. So to start with, in building a list, I like to go with what's my concept for the list? What am I focusing on? It's very easy to look at your codex and see all the really good units or all the really good combos that are done online and in events and go, oh, I can run all this together. You're going to run out of CP. You're going to run out of points. You're not going to be effective on your objectives. You got to focus. That's the big issue. For me, flyers. That's the thing I want to focus around. That means I have to have durability or at least numbers on the ground. Because once the ground guys are gone, I've got a big weakness. I'm not holding objectives. I can fly around, I can shoot you the rest of the game, but I'm not holding any objectives. I'm losing points every turn.
That's fair.
So, for me, it's like, okay, I'm taking my flyers. I'm going to do, say, one Drukhari Airwing detachment. Get 3 of the Razor Wings in there because they're cheap. They put out a volume of fire. Do the Ignores cover, Cabal, and I'm set for things like Scouts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that benefit from a lot of cover now. If you have access to Ignores cover, either through power or through your chapter tactics, very good one to take. So there, I got that one out of the way. Second one I'd be looking at is I need punch. So that's going to come from my next wave of flyers, which are going to be the craft world ones.
Okay.
Do I want to do my usual of 3 of the X-Arcs with the Bright Lances, so I'm getting the rerolls and the hits, or do I want to be a little more frustrating and throw a Hemlock in there as well? Do I want that extra psychic power and the auto hitting, so if I come across a character, I can just go, boop, there's strength 12 auto hits. So it's a balance that I have to start taking. Then points have to come into consideration as well. So I've got those 2 central points out of the way as my concept. I've got flyers as the concept. I've locked in what I need. I look at my points remaining at this, and then I'm trying to fill out, okay, what support does it need? What do I need for troops? What's going to last the longest? So, for example, if I was doing Craft World, I could do something like Guardians for the troops. I definitely want Psychic support. I would prefer the guys on bikes because they're faster and more durable. So, Farseer and a Warlock.
I've seen those a bunch of times.
Yeah. And then something like 3 Wave Serpents. I do a lay talk, so I get the -1 to hit if you're past 12. I take the War Gear on the Serpents, so if I advance, you're -1 to hit. So if I keep my distance, you're -2. Put the other War Gear piece, the Spirit Stones for the Feel No Pain, and suddenly I've got a tough 7, 13 wound, really durable model.
Yeah.
I can move fast with it too, so I've got that speed to go to the objectives, dump the guys where I need them. So, might not be the best list for taking objectives, but I think I can sweep the opponent off of the ones that he's on, or take care of the large targets that the opponent will bring, and then have my others be able to move into place and take advantage of that mid to late game scoring.
Yeah, it seems like a list that's very much designed to deny the opponent objective scoring simply by volume of fire and mortals, and then you've got like the minimum that you need there of boots on the ground to get the objective.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's just an example of one I would throw together.
Okay. Very quickly, Professor Grant clarifies in the chat, increasing the casting value doesn't need to be done. He believes Mental Onslaught doesn't need an FAQ. I think we're gonna have to, given us here in the here at the table, we're gonna have to agree to politely disagree. But once the FAQ drops, please come back in the chat and either gloat as necessary, or let us be hoisted by our own petards as necessary.
I do not think it needs to be increasing casting value, though.
Okay.
I think it's absolutely fine there. The only thing that I think needs to change is some way that it can be stopped if you hit that ridiculous situation.
That's fair.
It's a very minor thing that comes up. Being able to say, hey, I rolled a 6 as defense and it stops, that seems to be one of the balances that would be fair. Other is something like 12 or 13 wounds cap, so you can still hit all those lighter ones really heavy. You can take a knight down half wounds, still do damage you need, but it's not that, insta-kill.
Yeah.
Here's a 600-point model that I deep struck beside and it's dead now.
Yeah.
That's tough.
That's fair.
That's tough.
Okay, so back to constructing your list. So one of the concepts I've seen online is, and to clarify sort of where I am coming from, I have played tons and tons of Magic the Gathering for decades. So when it comes to lists, I'm used to concepts like shells, where you take you've got whatever combo you're using in your particular deck, and then you've got like a set of counterspells, a set of removal, a set of this, that is just accepted to be strong, and then you swap out what you need to do in that particular deck, but the shell remains the same no matter how you win the game. I was flabbergasted when I came to 40k that the only thing that really fits that concept is like the Loyal 32 and the rest of your Spiky 17 that we're seeing.
Absolutely.
So it's just gone. It's not there.
And now you will see that in some lists just based on how people like to construct their lists or how they personally do it. Like if I'm doing my Dark Eldar, I'm always going to be Flayed Skull as my main. I'm going to have at least 4 Venoms. It's just how it's going to be set up no matter what else I do with the list. So for a lot of people, that shell is there just out of habit of how they build lists. Way to get out of that is to be very brutal with your list construction and to build multiple lists, like just hammer through them. It's like, would I do this? Okay, no, this is silly. I discard this. You really want to get intense about it? Start looking at every unit you have access to. Go through one by one and be honest with it. Where could I fit this in my list? Would it be good or bad? Forget internet wisdom, forget anything like that. You look at it yourself and go, okay, for my list, is this good or bad? People are saying ignore it, but what if I've got a function where it's going to work better for me?
Yeah. I'm familiar with that going through the Tyrannid Codex because there are so many lovely little monsters that I would just love to bring to any tournament if the concept were sideboarding were a thing and I could swap them out as needed because they're so very specialized. But only the Imperium Assassins get that, which just
Now,
increases
the
my
sideboarding is bringing up another interesting side topic. I do think you'll see some tournaments doing that as an extra flavor.
Okay.
Something like bring 1,500 and two 500 sideboards. And you swap in those as needed to bring it up to 2.
That is fair. Okay. That's an interesting thought.
A lot of people got really excited after the stratagem came out for the Assassins. They're like, oh, hey, sideboards are a thing.
Check this
Other
out.
games do it.
That makes sense.
Right?
Okay.
So that works.
The other concept that I bring to list building in Warhammer that I shouldn't is counting on an ability to stabilize. Now, when you're playing Magic, you've got aggro decks which aim to hit fast and take you out before they run out of gas.
Yeah.
You've got mid-range decks which try and outvalue you just by getting more card advantage or more damage done at like a critical point on the mana curve and just earning that. And you've got control decks which want to sit there and deny you and deny you and deny you until you run out of gas and then they go and do their thing. I am an evil piece of shit. I love my control decks. My favorite deck, my 2 favorite decks that I've ever built for Magic involve a complete just lockout combo where I don't even let you untap your lands and I do my thing. And a deck that just sets up a whole bunch of horrible stuff that happens to everybody on their turn, and then I skip my turns. So it doesn't happen to me.
There you go.
But
I ran a similar type of idea in 7th with my lists and tournaments. I wanted to deny as many interactions as possible to the opponent.
Okay. So, but the thing is, both of that, like, control especially leans on being able to stabilize. It's just like, eventually they'll run out of gas.
Yes.
But one of the things I've learned is that you can't do that when there's an exact turn limit, when games will always be 4, 5, or 6 rounds, because you need an unlimited sort of time limit to be able to stabilize and just another board state and then come back.
It's true. There are ways to adjust that idea and adjust those tactics to 40k.
How so?
John Kilcullen is an excellent example of this with his lists. He likes to put a mass number of bodies on the board. It's going to conscripts right now, so he's got floods and floods of bodies. So he's stalling the game and controlling the board by flooding everything up to the halfway point. He's got all the objectives back there. He's making it so guys like me who are quick and fly in and try and rely on a little gap have more difficulty getting to what we need. So he's shutting down my interactions.
Okay.
He's making it harder for me to score points. In the meantime, he has a couple units that hit really hard, so he's grinding away at my list. I either have to try and deal with these units, which if he's taking a bunch of characters, I'm in trouble. If he's doing something like a Castellan, it's a little easier for me to deal with because that's one big target. In either case, while I'm busy focusing on the distraction, he's still getting enough through to wear down and wear down and wear down. He's getting enough guys that are objective secured in a position that I won't have enough bodies to fight back. So he just controls, he neutralizes what you're doing, and he lets that durability go through the mid and end game. He lets you exhaust yourself early. It's almost like the Nurgle list.
Yes. Thurston's famous list discussed in the last episode.
Absolutely. Only this one focuses more on numbers and board control than on extreme durability. Here's negatives and 5-ups and 5-ups. And
as he has said, if you're making your opponent make tough choices, you're playing good Warhammer.
Absolutely.
So
you want to minimize the good choices they can make, and you want to set up as many bad situations for them as possible, where it doesn't matter if I'm shooting here or here, it's still going to be rough, and it's still not an ideal choice for me.
Okay. Now, let's say I'm a list that doesn't have the option of doing that. As I mentioned earlier in the show, I have converted to Custodes. I'm going to be bringing that to PrairieCon. I have, like, almost no bodies, but they are rocks in a river. They will not go down. Like, what are my options there? How would you look at just, like, that super elite type of list, and
for the Custodes,
how would you solve that? Yeah.
I'll use them as the example because as far as elite lists go, they're one of the easier ones to make work as an example. So you've got a combination of speed and durability with them. You've got your bikes, which let you set up the speed. You can get where you need to go. You can dump a lot of shots out if you're going with the Hurricane Vultures. You're not going to get the double tap from the Vulture drill because Custodians don't benefit, but it's still a ton of shooting, and you can position yourself where you need. Then you got little 3-man units. You do your shield guy and 2 spears. You tuck them down. Ideally, your objective is in cover, and you're sitting in that cover with a guy who has a 2-up save going to a 1-up in the cover. And what you want to do is frustrate the opponent with sitting on those objectives. Certain ITC missions, which we'd be focusing on for Planes of War, they reward you. You need every turn at least 1 kill and 1 objective. So if you can make it so the one in your zone is really hard for the opponent to shift you off of, both because you've got good shooting coming from these guys, good close combat to defend if they're rushing in with something like an assassin or a group of boys that they've struck in, you're still locked on that objective, and shooting is very hard to dislodge you. At that point, with a 1+, you need a -2 to get you down to anything where there's a reasonable chance of failure. -3 before you're at the 50-50 zone.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's really hard to deal with. You also have a banner that allows negative to hit modifiers.
Yes.
You do have to clump a little closer, but that's a good option as well. The Telemons.
Yeah, I've talked with you extensively about them.
Those are good all around. They can hold objectives because they're so tough. They can just lock down on there. You can slowly roll forward with your other groups, your basic troops, and have them take the forward objectives and have the Telemons holding back, because those are very difficult to dislodge. Or you can reverse it. You can have the Telemons going forward and the other guys sitting back. Essentially, you just have to be very, very aware that you're elites and things that are going to hurt your specific units. Volume of fire is something you have to look out for.
Yeah.
Mortal wound spam is something you have to look out for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you've got a protection against it, but still, it'll chip down faster than anything else.
Yep. I was strongly looking at taking Impregnable Mind on my Warlord for that exact reason, just to have the denies.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to take a quick selfish moment away from list discussion and talk with something I've been thinking about and wanted to run by you. Custodians have the stratagem. I need to work to not call it a tactic because it plays so much guilty. Custodians have the stratagem. From Golden Light they come. You can spend 1 or 3 command points to deep strike 1 or 2 of any infantry, dreadnought, or biker unit that they have. And I've strongly been considering leaving a bunch of stuff in field, deep striking 2 Telemon Drez and just putting them where I want them. Now, is that something that you think would be effective, or is that like a trap?
A little of each.
Okay.
More on the effective side. It can be a trap depending who you're facing. A lot of these strategies that you take are depending on opponent. That's the biggest thing to keep in mind. So in this situation, let's say you've got something like Marine Devastators in the backfield.
Okay.
They're being a pain for you, and for whatever reason, you got to have your bike somewhere else or you can't get there. Deep striking the Telemons is an absolutely valid option. There's a chart that broke down the percentages for every inch away you are. When you're at 9 inches, it's a 28% chance of success. So don't rely on the charge. What you're relying on at this point is the presence of 2 bastard-ass guys in the backfield that are going to be hard to remove because of how tough they are. They've got invuls, they've got good saves, they've got high toughness, they've got 14, I think, for wounds? Or something ridiculous?
Something around there.
Yeah, they're beefy. They've got the firepower to be able to do serious damage if they need to, and they've got the close combat to do serious damage if they need to. It's one of those things that it's a good stratagem because your opponent has to deal with it. There's no way they can avoid it, there's no way they can not, unless they completely abandon their zone and basically play the switch game. But against Custodes, that's tricky.
That's fair.
Because you're locking down your backfield very easily.
All right, we're at the halfway mark of the show, which makes it time for our first sponsor shout-out. And it's a great time to shout out 7th Forge Studios, who has joined us in the chat. They've joined us as a sponsor this year. If you were there at some of our events last year, you saw 7th Forge come out with their wonderful Light Lords list, 1 best painted. Did you get a chance to play against them?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. However, I know Matt from Edmonton.
Okay.
We played against each other a lot out there. And
excellent.
He's a wonderful guy. I highly recommend his service. His painting skills were incredible when I was there, and it's just gone up. I've gotten word from him that he's going to be bringing one of his better painted armies. So I'm really excited to see what he's done. All I know is Mortarion is coming.
That's,
Yeah.
Excellent.
So 7th Forge Studios, very reasonable prices. I know he started specializing in Shadespire warbands lately.
Excellent.
Yeah, he's
Cool.
got a whole price set up for those that just went up the other day, so check him out.
Yes, Seventh Forward Studios and their podcast Favored of Chaos. So shout out
Yes.
to you guys.
Very nice podcast. Quite enjoy listening to those guys.
Excellent. Okay, so back to discussing planning your list for Planes of War. Again, researching this topic online, I saw one person make the suggestion, and it sort of resonated with me because it took me out of my Magic the Gathering deck building mindset, and it was you have to be able to solve 4 problems. You have to have an answer for 4 things.
Yes.
Hordes, elites, vehicles, and objectives. Is that accurate?
That's absolutely accurate. I haven't phrased it like that before, but those are the things that I tell people to look for.
Okay, is there anything else that should be on that list?
Those are the main ones. The thing with vehicle is it kind of covers the big guys. It covers everything you need with that category.
Yeah.
Psychic is the only other thing that I'd be concerned about in some level or other in having to deal with, but not so much that it would be a primary focus of a list.
Okay.
Unless that's what your guys specialize in. Thousand Suns? Yeah, do it.
Yeah. Or if we can make a better acronym out of HEVO, Hordes, Elites, Vehicles, Objectives. Okay, so that's good.
But no, absolutely. And again, it goes back to what's in your toolbox, what you have in your codex or codexes, depending what you're running. So Hordes, you're going to want volume of fire for sure. And I always look at volume over quality fire for almost any situation. It really doesn't depend, or it really doesn't matter what you're doing. It'll solve it. It really will. I've had more guys die to little las guns hitting Magnus or a giant tank in the face than my big shots. It's just how it happens.
That makes sense.
So hordes you can either deal with by being able to outgun them or by having your own horde, and then it just becomes a big mashup of who can do better. Is it shooting or is it combat? Is it your orcs or is it a bunch of cultists? So,
Okay.
again, it depends what you're doing. For me, as an Eldar player, I'm looking for volume of shots. If I'm doing Craft World, it's got to be a lot of Guardians. It's got to be a lot of Shuriken shots. I know they're going to get close to me, but it's all I've got to really deal with them. Drukhari, it's a little easier. I can just jump and jump and jump and use those Venoms to keep up on buildings and hiding in weird spots and just unloading. Disadvantage there is all the shots are poisoned, so no matter what the toughness I'm facing, it's a 4+ to wound.
Yeah.
So that's how I would deal with hordes with either of mine.
That's Hordes.
Elites. So again, this is something you have to be considerate of. John from the Salt Miners, he came up with or coined the term in our group anyway, bully units. You're starting to see them a lot more, whether it is the big groups of Bulgrins from the Astra Militarum. You could see the Wraith Blades from Craft Worlds. You could see things like the Grotesques from the Drukhari. Terminators. Terminators are making an insane comeback right now because of the Vulture Drill rule.
Okay.
So these units are really good to lock down a section of the table, ideally the center, unload with a ton of shooting, or be very threatening with close combat, and generally make you come deal with them. So almost every list can fit these in if they really want to. Some are less effective than others, but you've got to be prepared to deal with it. You've got to be prepared for, oh, this guy brought 8 Bulgrins, and they're charging into everything I've got, and I can't deal with them. Something's got to do it, whether it's psychic, whether you've got good close combat of your own. Again, it comes down to what's in your toolbox.
That's right.
Yeah.
Professor Grant asks in the chat, I'm not familiar with these units. Are bone worm infestations still allowed in any detachment, or are they in detachment of their own?
These are the ones that are coming from the Amble.
Okay.
The one that was released for Blackstone Fortress, and then they gave rules for both of those and the Burrow Worms for 40k. So as far as I understand it, based on reading the rules for those, as well as rules for list construction, because they are literally like an unclassified, there's no keyword for them that fits, they're okay to go in any of those.
Okay.
So you can put them in as filler in your detachments if you need to.
Interesting.
Again, check with your TOs. There's always going to be rulings locally, but yes, until GW tells us different, that is absolutely legal to do.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bizarre 40KB says they've just picked up 3 Vulture gunships and is loving the added dynamic to the soup lists. What do Vultures do? Because I've heard people talking about them a lot.
Okay, so you've got 2 big advantages to the Vultures. The first is, obviously, you're going to be going the Punisher Cannon build, so you've got 2 Punisher Cannons on a flying platform. You've got +1 to hit when you're targeting ground units. That's the balance out moving and shooting with heavy. They can also hover. So you can be technically hitting ground units on 3s with a ton of strength 5 shots. Between the heavy bolter and the 2 punishers, it's 43 shots per vulture.
Okay.
So you're putting out 129 strength 5 shots from these. You're going to leaf blower if you need to. Other major advantage is their flyers, and currently move blocking is a major thing.
As you mentioned.
Yeah, it is one of my favorite tactics. So you get those vultures lined up where a knight needs to go. Knights can't go through ruins the same way. You can effectively block it off, so they have to go a very large distance around to be of any effect. Also works against close combat blobs like gene stealers who can't fly, anything that can't directly clear those. You can set it up to make almost like a little diversion. You're
that makes
the
sense.
Flow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what makes flyers so powerful. In that regard, vultures are probably the best choice Imperium has.
That makes sense. And that answers the question I was going to ask about whether they bring weight of dice or another type of solution to problems. It's weight of dice.
It's weight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of knights, I desperately miss when my Ripper Swarms could stop knights. Because they were swarms but didn't have the infantry keywords, so the knight rules that allowed them to step over infantry didn't apply, and I had just like a pile of little ankle biters stopping them. But that got FAQ.
I do miss the hilarious interaction.
It was so good. Professor Grant adds in zoanthropes, I think, as tying it to the bully units, and as a Tyranid player, I would have to agree.
Yes.
3-up invols and smite spams. Whoo!
Yes, a large group of zoanthropes is your bully unit for Tyranids.
Yeah.
People would be tempted to say something like the Hive or the Tyrant Guard, but being completely honest, the invols is what's going to make the difference every single time with those.
Yep.
And of course, keep a large group to keep your smites and your damage as high as possible, and it becomes a threat you have to deal with. Dustin, one of the local Tyranid players, he's done very good work with them. Went from something that was like, oh, okay, they're on the field and I got to be aware of it, to I do have to deal with this, and if it gets in range, I'm in serious trouble.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, what tools do you always make sure you have? And when I ask this question, I'm thinking of something like, and pardon for the sports analogies, but a running back in football is always having a good game when they hit 100 yards.
Yeah.
A goalie's doing good in hockey when they are above a 920 save percentage.
Yeah.
So what do you... And this, I think, ties into a subsequent question. What's your benchmark for good lists? Do you always make sure you have like a certain number of minus AP guns? Do you always make sure you have a certain level of toughness in some units?
Yeah.
Like, what are your benchmarks for that? What do you look for?
There are certain things, and again, it comes back to your concept for your list, but there are certain things that you do need in every list. Personally, I do... we'll go to the Drukhari list that I threw out, or the Drukhari mix. So I'm taking the Razor Wings, because I've got Volume of Fire for the Hordes, but they've also got the -3s.
Okay.
So Strength 5, -3, 2 damage, 6 shots of those from each flank. It gives me the ability to deal with things like mortars, because I can move fast, see them, and completely delete them. They don't have a save against that. It's 2 damage each. They're going right through. Same with things like Terminators. They're going to have an invul out of it, but it's going to force them onto that. It's 2 damage, so 1 failure is a guy that's gone.
fair.
Yeah. So I use those to clear elite and multi-wound models, generally. Then I need some vehicle killing. Unfortunately, we're in a meta right now where knights are the dictating force. You either have to be able to deal with it, or you have to be able to avoid it and score a ton of points otherwise. You see a Castellan, and that's the 2 options. You deal with everything else, or you deal with the Castellan itself. So, because I'm craft rolled and sticking to the flyer concept, I have access to some very powerful ones that I can sit at distance and generally frustrate the knight's best abilities. Castellan wants to be shooting me down, so I've got a -2 because of range, and then maybe another minus because I do the lightning fast. Makes it difficult for them to keep up with, and then I've got powerful enough weapons on those that I'm going to be able to punch through.
Okay.
From there, I have to control objectives and be able to deal with hordes. So that comes down to which troop choices and whether or not I'm taking transports.
All right.
The transports because I need the durability as well.
Yeah.
So all of that together is what I'm trying to do for a list, because I know I have to deal with hordes, the elites, the vehicles, and I've got to score objectives.
So really, you're not trying to hit like a certain number of benchmarks. You're not sitting there going, I need 8 AP minus 3 guns. I need 8
I do try and look
guns
at how
with
many
12 shots or whatever.
Yeah, I do try and look at the number of shots that I'm getting, and I do try and look at the strength and AP and the damage. Like, all those weigh into consideration. It's why for Drukhari, things like the disintegrators are generally taken over Dark Lances. You can put them on the same vehicles, but you get 3 shots from a disintegrator, 1 from a Dark Lance. Dark Lance is strength 8 minus 4d6 damage and longer range.
Okay.
But disintegrator, you've got strength 5 minus 3 2 damage, so it's more reliable. You're not going to roll those ones.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Bizarre Forty Beast asks in the chat, Grant, I agree with you on Swarms, running those 3 Vultures, a Castellan, 2 Helverins, and a Catachan Brigade, and is finding it even more potent than his Orcs. What's your reaction to that?
Oh, I would agree 100%.
Okay.
100%. You've got the Knights in there, and that's going to give you the big kick to take out the other big things that are showing up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's Lehman Russes, it doesn't matter if it's my Wave Serpents, it doesn't matter if it's a Shadow Sword, or another Castellan, which is the most likely. They're going to have a kick to deal with that. The Vultures, they've got the kick to deal with the Hordes, and then the Catachans give them the ability to spread out, and the key here is you can use them really effectively in combat because they're strength 4.
Okay.
So that gives you even more movement. There's some intricacies within the assault I don't want to get into on this episode.
Yeah.
Because it'll take a lot more time.
I've seen some of those videos. They have diagrams. We don't have diagrams,
we don't-
folks,
we don't
today.
have
I'm sorry.
prepared. And also that is just an episode that there's certain people who should be on to talk.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But in a general concept, it allows you to expand the movement that you're doing, and it allows you to expand the board control you're doing. You don't necessarily want every single model into combat.
Okay.
You want to, say, lock this unit down with a couple guys that you know are going to survive, and the others are spreading out to, say, take this objective or block this zone where the flyer needs to land.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that, in general, approaches like dealing with like the Hordes Elite's vehicles objectives and the different tools that you'll use and bring to deal with all of those things. And you mentioned off the top of this section that you start with a concept.
Yes.
Now, and you've mentioned with your Eldar, it's mostly Volume of Fire. What are some of the different examples of concepts you've worked with in the past?
Absolutely.
I know you played Thousand Suns. I know you played Zinch, a few others.
So, Zinch is the major experience I have outside of this.
Okay.
My concept there was Volume of Mortal Wounds.
Okay.
I do have shooting, but it's not fantastic. The AP isn't really reliable. Like, I got a -1, a -2 here and there, but I can't rely on that, so it's got to be volume. Pink Horrors are what I would go for their Flamers, but then I'm trying to get as many Heralds, as many Demon Princes, as many big characters to just pump those Mortal Wounds in.
Okay.
Because that's what's going to swing it for me. I'm not going to be able to chew through a 2-up armor save or a 3-up invul unless I'm just sweeping forward with the mortals.
Really glad I picked Custodes right now.
Right? Right? So that's a concept.
Okay.
Another concept would be, say, a close combat army. Mm-hmm. Right? So you're going to focus around, let's say you're doing Thousand Suns, you've got the Zangors. You're going to be focusing on how do I get them buffed and down the field properly. What other units am I using as distractions to support that? So you're starting with that main, what do I need to get this to work, and then filling in around there. Another idea is something like the termite drill that we've been seeing a lot more of lately.
Okay. Can you break that down for me?
Yeah, very popular one we're seeing with the termite right now. So essentially it deep strikes, and then your guys compile out. Toughness 8, does a lot of damage in close combat, has some shooting depending which variant you're taking. The guys that are piling out, depends what you're taking. Again, the really popular idea right now is the Chaos Havocs. 2 groups of 5, 4 chain guns in each, have a Lord and a Sorcerer coming out to support for the buffs. And with the volume of shots, you're getting 32 shots from each group, do Slanesh to double fire. There's lots of ways to buff it, and then you're clearing that zone.
Okay.
So then this drill is the distraction at that point. They're focusing back here, they're having to pull back here. So you've centered around this concept of what do I need to make this as efficient as possible, and then you're filling in the rest. It's like, what do I need to make the list function now that I've got this gimmick going, or I've got this concept going. And it's not always as simple as I'm trying to make a single unit work really well.
Yeah.
But you need focus to be able to know where to spend your CP. That's a big one.
This is the punch I'm dealing, instead of always having to be on the back foot because of your opponent's decisions.
Right. Or even knowing that your opponent's going to make a lot of hard decisions, but you've got the defensive capabilities if you focus your CP there.
Okay.
It's a matter of focusing and knowing where it's going to be spent, so you're not drawn into those situations where it's like, oh, you wanna re-roll that? Okay, that dice, it could go up. You could get that big hit that you're waiting on.
That's fair.
So having a plan for your list and for your CP does help. You got to be flexible, but have that general idea there. So when I'm saying concept, that's really what I'm getting at is how is this list powered? What is going to do the hits or what is going to score the points? And how do I keep it functioning?
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you're looking for concepts, what is the most important, do you think? Are you looking for concepts about weight of dice, about AP, about invuls? Like, what are some of the proven good things to build concepts around, and what are some of the mistakes or traps people can walk into?
Absolutely. Now, it again depends what tools are in your toolbox. I love going back to that because it's an easy description.
Yeah. And everyone should be familiar with that from their codex.
Yeah, exactly. So offensive and defensive is the two categories I break down to here for what I'm looking for. If the codex has a lot of really good AP, really specialized kind of weaponry and hits, yes, I would focus more on AP.
Okay.
In general, I would try and get as much firepower as possible. Almost any codex, I'm going to be picking firepower first and volume of firepower.
Okay.
So that's why, for example, I'm so big on the chain gun Havocs as opposed to missile launcher Havocs, which are also a very solid option. But there's something for different use you want in the backfield there. So it really comes down to personal taste, the type of units that you're interested in. But almost every time, you're going to see weight of fire win out over single powerful shots.
Okay.
For defense, durability. And that's either toughness or really good invul saves or ways to reduce damage or hit modifiers. Depends what's in your book, depends what you can focus on, but yeah, you want to be able to frustrate the opponent. Hitting a bunch of 2-up armor saves with no AP weaponry, that's frustrating. Especially when the opponent's like, here's 1-1.
Yeah. Really glad I picked this. Anyway, I'm not going to hammer that into the ground. All right, now before I go on to ITC, what was the question I had? I'll remember it in a second.
Now, when we discuss ITC, that's where my main planning for tournaments comes into.
Yes. How much do you build around ITC secondaries?
100% try and build my list to be able to score secondaries as best possible and to be able to get those primaries that kill every turn and that hold an objective every turn. As soon as you start losing those points, those two easy ones, your game starts going real quick.
Okay.
So for me, I'm really trying to focus on that. With my WCO list, my Brandon list, the idea was to give the opponent as few options for secondaries as possible. My Venoms were all 6 wounds, so it wasn't anything they were able to do for Big Game Hunter. Marked for Death was difficult because you were crossing over with the things that work for Big Game Hunter.
Yeah.
It became very difficult to pick options, and I was forcing my opponents into less desirable ones. At the same time, I was trying to focus on ones that I knew I could do. Recon is super easy for me. I'm fast. I just spread out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and you tied into sort of my second question there on that topic, which is how much do you build around denying secondaries? Is it as important, more or less?
It's equally.
Okay.
It's equally. You have to have a combination of you scoring maximum and the opponent scoring as few as possible. So if you can deny them a kill and they don't get that extra kill over you because of it, and you guys push, so it's a tie, that's better. That's better than getting the point almost.
Okay.
Being able to deny the opponent the points, and ITC is like a marathon in the way things are scored.
Okay.
You'll see it very close generally the first 2 rounds. 3rd round, you'll start to see where it parts. So it becomes very, very crucial for them to start getting as few as possible going into the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. That's really where it's going to start stretching for you. And that's also where slow players know to stop things or to pull it back as fast as they can. It's like, oh, 2nd round, huh? Let's adjust this pace, because round 5, I'm dead.
Yeah. Last question on this topic before we get to Bizarre Vortigate Beast's comment in the chat. Now, I've seen lists being developed for LVO, for Adepticon.
Yes.
And Adepticon's a little different, but I've seen lists being developed, and they take into account, like, the meta that results as a result of the secondaries and of the type of event.
Absolutely.
How much do you factor that in? How much do you build to counter a particular meta versus simply scoring as much as you can?
That becomes the second part of it for me.
Okay.
Yeah. It depends where I'm playing and the type of tournament that I'm in. Difference between our Highlander event and our Plains of War event, for example.
Yeah.
Highlander, single codex, so I knew I was going to be dealing with different challenges. So I was structuring the list differently. Also, the missions, I was trying to structure for what they were looking for there, which was a lot of Maelstrom cards and a lot of to get on the objectives to control.
Yeah.
That was very, very crucial. So keeping that in mind, I was trying to keep my list with a combination of punch and being able to grab those objectives as needed. For Plains of War, we're on pure ITC missions.
Okay.
So knowing that, I'm building the list with the ITC missions in mind and how to succeed in there as best I can, as well as trying to deny the opponent as best I can. It's kind of a complex series of things you got to juggle, and you're not going to be able to do everything, but you focus on what you can do the best, and it'll carry your list a little bit further.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bizarre 40kps chimes in the list that he's working with now, the non-orc list. The Vindicar and the Castellan targeting characters with shield breakers rip apart the buffers, the Vultures thin the hordes, and play distraction card effects, and the Catechins move around and score objectives and stand the line. That's a fairly cohesive, holistic philosophy?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
So the way he's talking about his list there, he's got a solution for everything. You've got the Castellan, so it can deal with the big things. It's dealing with your vehicles. And in a pinch, it can deal with the elites. That plasma puts out a lot of shots and does 2 or 3 damage, depending how they're doing it. So that's potent. He's got the Catechans to be able to spread out.
Sorry, is it Catechans or Catechans?
Yeah.
Okay.
My pronunciation on 40k names is kind of toss myself into it, and if someone corrects me, I go with that later.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I can be down for that.
Right? So he's got that for the board control, the objectives, and shooting combat if he needs.
That's right.
The Vultures are clearing the hordes, and again, they're being a distraction. You can't ignore them.
Yeah.
But dealing with them doesn't do a lot for you in the long run, unless you've marked them out for secondaries or something like that. All it's doing is killing his offensive potential while he's sitting there and racking up the points. It's one of the frustrating things about playing against that style of list.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's got the Hordes solution with the Vultures. It's got the Elite solution with the Vindicar and the Castellan. The Castellan is also its vehicles solution. And it's got the Catechins as the objective solution. Just to bring it back to that 4-point.
Exactly.
Solution.
So he's covering all the bases that he needs to be able to effectively run in an event.
Okay.
Now, the other thing you also have to take into account is know your local area. You see guys out and playing, you see what they're bringing. If you've seen them sign up, kind of keep in mind. It's like, oh, I know Kyle likes to bring Eldar, so there's going to be minuses to hit. Maybe I consider doing my Castellan as the House Mortan, so it can do the ignore modifier stratagem, you know. I know there's lots of Lehman Russes showing up, so hey, this Shadow Sword is very good, or this Castellan's very good because it's going to be popping those.
Yep.
I know a lot of Castellans are showing up. I'm going to do an Orc Horde so I can spread out.
This is also why it's important to sign up for an event in advance using the BCP app and your Battle Scribe. Per the video that we put out, the how to sign up on BCP, a short musical for the Bunker Buster this Saturday, and for Plains of War, plug. I'm a sellout, don't mind me. Do the thing that we keep telling you to do.
Information.
Yes.
Yeah, I will emphasize again the importance of BCP and Plains of War. This is drawing in people, and we are aiming at trying to keep this as large and as sustainable as we can every year. If we put on good events, these people will go travel back and recommend to their friends. It just is how it works. I know Matt went back to Edmonton and recommended to a bunch of people. Whether or not a few more show, he still went and had a positive experience, and that word of mouth is important. We're growing, so yes, please, it's definitely a big help. Same with any tournament you're signed up for. As soon as you can, get in the BCP app and register.
We're at the second half hour of the show, so I'm going to give a quick sponsor shout out, this time to Northern Lights Terrain. You'll see a bunch of their stuff at our events. You'll see a bunch of their stuff at our presenting sponsor, Game Night Games and Cool Stuff. I play with their stuff often because their Infinity series and their science fiction building series is perfect for Kill Team. I cannot praise them enough.
I was playing Infinity for a while, and loved when it was the Northern Lights terrain. Like, that was my preferred stuff to play on for sure.
Excellent.
Even now, if I'm at game night and I'm building a table, I try and get some of that stuff on there because it's good quality. So.
Absolutely. How has stuff? I'm not distracted. Remember to make sure to get your questions into the chat for Kyle. For Bizarre 40k Beast chimes in. I know he's considering the Hellverns, or he's got it in his list.
Yeah.
They're good against the flyer because of the +1 to hit against fly, so that's his counter to fly in the list.
Yes.
And then the Strat on the Knight's Book. Like, what's your reaction to that?
Oh, the Hellverns are the better way to counter Eldar vehicles and flyers. The straight 3 damage is just brutal as soon as it goes in. Having the plus to hit against flyers, again, that's a big thing to be considering. Flyers is almost like a subcategory of the vehicles. You do have to have a way to deal with them because of the number that are showing up.
That makes a ton of sense. All right, so that wraps up our discussion. That wraps up Preparing for War Part 1, Planning Your List. Keep tuning into the Dusty Auspex podcast. We're going to have more segments about painting your list or making, use purchases, making the best of online, making the best of our presenting sponsor, Game Night Games, and cool stuff and other things.
Yep.
As well as getting your practice sections in. Now we hit to the next segment of our show, which is the list of the week. I'm going to click the buttons here. This is going to be distracting, but we've got here from Voltor the Burninator on Reddit. He was looking for something for his upcoming ITC tournaments in their area. So as you can see here, we've got 2 Styges 8 battalions. The first one focuses a lot on having the Cataphren destroyers and the Castellan robots. The second one is mostly there for the command points, although it does make the choice of going to the Skitarii Vanguards instead of the Skitarii Rangers. And as discussed, we see like the House Raven Castellan.
Yep. The Vanguards are an excellent choice. You've got the assault weapons, and you definitely want to take advantage of the advance and shooting.
Okay.
Styges, -1 to hit, that's an excellent choice as well. It's the standard further than 12 inches restriction, but that's going to keep your survivability way up. He's got the arquebuses in with the Rangers. That's a very smart move. Essentially what you're looking for there is character sniping.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be focusing necessarily on the special weapons with the other ones. The Vanguards with the plasma, it's nice to have the plasma as a backup, but it's not necessary.
Okay.
His punch from this list is coming from 3 sources. So this isn't a Mars style. Obviously, he's doing Styges. It's not Call in there, so it's not the Call's moving castle. But the Castellan robots.
Yes.
Each of those is putting out 9 shots, 18 if they lock.
We need to clarify the Admech Castellan, not the Imperial Castellan.
Sorry, I'm gonna put in a terminology change here. When I'm talking about the beep boops,
okay,
I
that
mean
works.
the Admech ones,
the beep boops,
little
got it.
robots with the 9 shots.
Okay.
So he's got 3 of them together there. So that's 27 shots. When they lock down, that's doubling. So they're at 54 shots. These Phosphor are great because they're strength 6, -2, single damage, but they ignore cover. And cover, as I said earlier, is a very, very big thing right now.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of units that can take advantage of it. There's a lot of units that get a +2 as opposed to just a +1. And if you've played against those new Phobos Marines, they are a bitch to dig out if you don't have ignores cover. So, smart move there. Very, very smart by going that direction. It gives him volume as well to deal with the hordes.
All right.
A lot of guys would be tempted to focus the Castellans on, say, vehicles or the bigger things coming in. I wouldn't. Hit the things that you can wound on Strength 2 and Strength 3. Absolutely wipe them off the map. Onagers, he's gotten there for a little bit of extra punch. And he's got 1 Icarus to be able to deal with flyers a little bit better. I find even when I'm running the flyers, the Icarus doesn't do that much in terms of threatening me, but it's good to have in the back pocket. Just in case. And then again, if you come against any fancy Eldar and they've got all their vehicles with the fly keyword, there's tons of things out there with the fly keyword, you'll get use out of it still.
I don't know where we would come across those, General McEldar.
Right? So he's got that punch from there. He's got the ability to move faster and grab objectives through the 2nd Battalion, and he's got the ability to hold objectives by locking down from the 1st Battalion.
Okay.
So definitely covering that, and he's got some horde clearing ability. The shots from the guys in the 2nd Battalion aren't to be underestimated by any stretch. It's still pretty good shooting if you're looking at volume. And then we've got the big one on the table.
Yes.
So this is the one that everyone has to look out for, obviously.
Currently ahead of the big FAQ coming.
Yes, big FAQ is the big caveat with all of this. It's whether, like, my advice could change completely on some of these things depending what we see.
Yeah.
This is going off current knowledge. So what you've got with that Castellan is a lot of shots coming at you. He's keeping it a little cheaper by... no, sorry, he's got the double Siege Breaker.
Yep.
So that's the way I prefer to see the Castellan run. It gives you more shots and also lets you deal with a variety. The 2 Siege Breaker missiles are nice if they work.
Okay.
Big key here is he's got the Call's Wrath.
Okay. What does that add to it?
Okay, so this is a relic plasma gun. It changes to 2 and to 3 damage respectively for regular and then overloading the shots.
Okay.
It gives you a ridiculous benefit. Being House Raven, he's got the ability for the full rerolls. Ion Bulwark, that's putting him up to a 4-up to start for his Warlord trait, so you can get him up to the 3-up invul, and then you're in that sweet spot of 28 wounds, 3-up invul. It's hard to shift that if you don't have something to get through with.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Before I ask you your next question, we've got another a guest here in the place. Fabio, did you want to jump in, or are you good? There's a chair right there. We can move a mic. You can do this.
Yeah, I'll come in front.
All right.
Nice.
Fabio's coming in.
Fabio's joining us. It's fantastic. He's going to pull up a chair. We're going to move this mic. And he's going to take a look at our list of the week and give us reactions to it. And then I'm going to move on to the next thing of the show.
Sure.
Hello, Fabio. So,
What's up, everybody?
hey! All right, so we've got our list of the week here. I don't know if you can see it. It is an AdMech and Imperial Knights list. We've got 2 Stygies 8 battalions.
We just had to play against a bunch of these down in the States last week.
Right?
Nice. Yeah, so we've got 2 Stygies 8 battalions, 1 with Rangers, 1 with Vanguards. The first one also is packing 6 Cataphren destroyers and 3 Castellan robots.
There as well. That is a key part.
Okay.
He's probably going to do the new stratagem, or the new Vigilance detachment.
Okay.
That's going to give the plasma guys some extra effect.
Yes.
There's some really nasty stuff coming out of there.
Yep.
That allows him to deal with a lot of elites.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then we got the second battalion and a super heavy Knight Castellan with twin Siegebreaker cannons. You said you just had to fight a bunch of these in the States. What's your reaction to this list?
It's not very forgiving. One.
Okay.
As you start, it's honestly I compare it to the Necrons in the sense that once you start to lose stuff, like
it folds.
It folds pretty fast.
Okay.
But if it hits its priority targets and hits them very efficiently, like there's just it's a big hammer.
Yeah.
Like
Excellent.
Some of the units are hard to move. Cataphren destroyers.
Yep.
Yeah, those are the servitors.
Yeah.
He's got the beat boop robots.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yep.
So a lot of shots. I mean,
Yeah.
it's most range is 36, so you can like some stuff you have the advantage of ranging most of his guns, but obviously he's got the Knight in there with what is it, Siege Breakers?
2 twin Siegebreaker cannons, 2 Siegebreaker missiles, and he's spent the command points. As you can see, it's sort of like the bottom right. We've got that indicated there, where he's taking the extra Warlord trait and the extra Relic for Call's Wrath and Ion Bulwark.
Which is very smart, and being House Raven, he's got access to some of the better stratagems, including the Mechanicum one that lets him block mortal wounds on a 5+, which he needs.
Huh.
All right. So,
the biggest flaws in this list, of course, are you've got lower numbers in the troops.
Yep.
So it's not going to be hard to take out the objective holders. Those Castellans, if you tag them in combat, when they're locked down for shooting, they're done the rest of the game because they cannot move when they're locked down.
Which is something John did in his first game. He had Ezekiel? No.
He had Samael on the speeder, and then he had some other ones.
The other guy mismoved and left an opening in front, and there was like a bunch of CP you could spend to do this like dive attack kind of thing. And he got right in there and tied them up, and like he couldn't. They were rendered useless for the rest of the game. Now Samael couldn't kill them, but they couldn't shoot. They couldn't kill Samael back, and he had no other close combat units that could deal with Samael. So basically, they were like, okay, well, we can just ignore that for the entire game.
Yep.
After, I want to say it was like turn 2, and basically they just.
It was almost immediately. Yeah.
And they just sat there, which I thought was really interesting to see how that played out, and how like he was like how delicate and fragile they are, and how important it is to protect them.
yes.
But like at the same time, like it was just such a cool play because I was on another table and I was on.
Yeah.
My other guy was moving his stuff, and I just happened to look over and I saw this, and the other guy's just like sitting there with his hand like, shit.
That's fair.
So
okay.
It's cool. Yeah.
See, and that's that kind of out of the box play I was kind of hinting at earlier. With you don't have to deal with the big stuff necessarily. If it's got a flaw like that, you can tag it. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Townar is vulnerable to that. You tag it in combat, and you survive. It can shoot at your guys that are there, but nothing else.
So dealing with it in this context doesn't mean necessarily killing it, just taking its away its ability to affect you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
I gotta
its efficiency. Absolutely.
throw a couple quick questions at you while I go back and adjust the camera. You've given me your reactions to this list. How would you fight this list with your favorite armies? Kyle, I'll start with you. I'll be right back.
Okay, so this one's a little bit tricky because it depends what he does with the command points and with the detachments, the Vigilance detachments. What I would be doing here is essentially ignoring the Castell in the first turn. I want him to expend a lot of command points on shooting at me.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep my distance so I can get my -2s on the flyers.
Right.
I will keep the flyers within the 36-inch range of the Castellan robots. Ideally, what I'm looking for there is to dump Doom on them and just explode them.
Okay.
I've done it to Ben Garrowling a few times, and the Pulse Lasers and the Bright Lances more than make a mess of those robots.
Okay.
Once they're dealt with, I'd probably use the Disintegrators on the Destroyers, and whatever's sitting in cover with the Arquebuses, I'm going to be firing the other shots from the Dark Eldar planes at.
Okay.
From there, it's just digging out the rest of it, and then moving to deal with the Castell in turn 2 and 3, depending what I have left.
All right. How would you fight
You
it?
would leave the Castell until turn later on? Oh man, I wish I had that luxury.
Yeah, unfortunately you don't.
Yeah.
I do.
So basically, the Castellan would be my first target with the I play obviously Necrons. Right now, it's pretty much standard to run 3 Doomsday Arcs, 3 Knights, 3 Doom Sights, stuff like that. So a lot of high damage.
That's
high
prime
AP.
target for that.
So like for me, it's the flyers go up. Getting at least 1 wound on that thing with one of those. So then all my other Sawtech units are getting the +1 to hit.
Okay.
So using that kind of stratagem. Everything else basically, like I said, staying out of that 36-inch effective range of theirs, forcing them to move up, which will allow my Doomsayers with the 48-inch range to take that first turn of shooting at them, or maybe 2 turns before even they start to advance. And then once that thing is either dead or low enough that I can either move forward or he's moved other stuff in the range, then I'd have Tomb Blades, Destroyers, Veil of Darkness, try and maybe find an opening somewhere and drop those down, Extermination Protocols.
Yeah.
Then try and go for the what are they?
Cataphrons, Castellans, Onagers.
The robots.
The beep boops.
Yeah, the Castellan robots.
Castellans.
Try and put some hurt on them, and then everything else would kind of advance and maybe add to that, and then kind of see where I'm at. Assuming I'm not in shambles.
I'd be using those Tomb Blades on the guys that are going to be dug in cover for sure. You can do the ignores cover on it, right?
Yeah. But the Tomb Blades would probably go pick on them. They'd go pick
Only
on
those units for sure.
Yeah, because essentially, and it's nice. I ran a big group of 9. Everyone wants to shoot them because it's a big squad, but the -1 to hit is nice.
It's big. Anytime you can get negative to hit or invul or both,
Oh, it's huge.
It's fantastic.
It's better than getting the rerolls.
Yes, absolutely.
Honestly, it's insane.
But that's why you have to look out for Colin in the Mechanicum list. He's not here because it's not Mars, but he gives full rerolls, not just missed, so you can adjust for those negatives.
Yeah.
That was going to be my last question for you guys. About this list, the player indicated that they had Call and some Helverins that they were considering swapping in. Would you swap in Call and the Helverins into this list, or would you leave it as is?
I don't think so.
Hard because he'll lose a battalion if he does.
Yeah.
Usually, calls in when the robots are a larger squad. Usually, I think it's 5 to 6 is generally when you see him floating around, because they still get the split
2
fire.
and then 4 to 6 is
not
the
that?
you want the
So,
2 onagers in the back and then 4 to 6.
So then you're really maximizing that rerolls to hit, but with only 3, it's kind of I can kind of take it or leave it.
I think he's smarter to go with this and the negatives to hit. The only change I would make is find the points to do the assassin sideboard. Your Imperium, there's no reason not to.
That's fair.
It's too good.
Yeah.
That flexibility is
100%.
so strong.
100%.
That makes a ton of sense. Yeah. Okay. Thank you both for your reactions to this list. Fabio, thank you for jumping in. We're going to start wrapping up the show. So today we talked about, starting your list with a concept, pushing that concept as far as you can, having solutions for hordes, elites, vehicles, objectives, know the tools in your toolbox, know your meta, consider your ITC secondaries, scoring, denying, and how they affect the meta. And bottom line, don't be afraid to be this person if you want to. No one's going to look down on you.
I have to give this 110% praise. The effort the guy put in to make those the right size is fantastic. I would play against that with no hesitation if someone wanted to try something out before they bought. That's wonderful. Like it really is. I'm okay proxying and letting people figure it out, but doing that, fantastic.
Those are above and beyond the even the Necron proxy with all the sprue.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
yes.
sprue Necrons.
That's pretty intense. So
nice.
I would be okay with allowing that. Someone want to give that a go and just a pickup game for sure.
Excellent.
That's funny.
Definitely.
All right. So
everywhere. That's so funny.
Okay.
Make sure as many people as possible.
We're wrapping up. We're gonna hit the credits list. We're gonna hit you with their catchphrase, and then we're gonna hit you with the credits roll as we go out.
Did we change our catchphrase?
We did not change our catchphrase, Kyle. You're still up to date. I've added something after the catchphrase, but the catchphrase is still fine. So,
alive and well.
Previously today, as our sponsor plugs, we've plugged Seventh Forge Studios and Northern Lights Terrain. Again, check both of those places out. They are incredible. Fabio, take us down the left side of our list.
Okay, so left side. Game Night Games and cool stuff. They've got literally everything.
Yes.
And if tabletop gaming, you need it, they can.
They have
they can get
the largest space, I would say, for gaming in Winnipeg.
Open gaming is, and honestly, just the strongest hours.
Yes.
Being open until midnight and stuff is huge. We've got Frontline Gaming. You know, they paved the way for competitive.
They're doing the hard work with the ITC.
Yeah, they did a lot of heavy lifting while GW is kind of not really paying attention. So
in the dark age.
It was a dark time. Northern Lights Same, like we've talked about already. Local guy, you know, if you need anything, if you can think of it, he can put it on. So definitely reach out to him if you don't see it on the site.
Very solid service.
Don't think because it's not there, it can't be there.
Yeah.
Manitoba Model Soldier Society, they will be doing our paint judging for Twin Eagles and Plains of War this year.
Ooh.
So it'll be good. We got some fresh eyes, some very we don't try. We say no one's biased, but these are very unbiased eyes, which is really awesome.
Sometimes it's hard when you're friends.
Yeah, or just there's certain armies you like more than others.
But they're bringing in their own metric. They've got it set up.
Well,
I'm very excited.
Actually, we're going to use most of our metric, but we are
are
talking with them. We're going to try and work some of their stuff in just to kind of sweeten and flavor the pot a little bit.
Nice.
Paint is a big part of it, so we figured
huge part.
Yeah. So Holiday Inn Airport, Polo Park. They are where we
don't have an event without it.
Yeah, that is where our Plains of War is going to be this year, and it has been for the last since its inception. What 3-4 years ago now?
Yes.
So it's a great space, nice, big, open, lots of washrooms, close to the airport. 30% off room deals for Plains of War.
Parking, restaurants nearby.
Yeah, everything. So. Thanks to them for allowing us a bunch of nerds to hang out for the weekend and roll dice.
Oh, I also love how they come and ask us, what do we want for lunch?
Drinks,
get the orders lined up. They take care of us just wonderfully there.
No, they do a good job. They've kind of figured out how we do things, and so
after that first year, it was locked in.
First day of first year was shambles, but after that
when everyone ordered lunch at the same time, that was great.
Yeah.
Okay, we also have Seventh Forge Studios, who we've already touched on. Matt is doing some, as I said, Shadespire bands at Specialist right now. He's got great deals there. We'll probably do some Kill Team deals as well. Definitely check him out.
Oh yeah, that's right, that Shadespire, I saw that.
Oh, so good. Battle Foam, as usual. If you want to protect your minis and not be like me for transporting them, invest in Battle Foam.
We actually got the fresh bags for this year's all our events. They're up here.
All
the new foam, all the new bags.
So we're ready for Thurston to win them again?
Oh god.
Might as well just take him right to his apartment.
We got 3 new bags, 4 new full sets of pluck foam, and
it's gorgeous.
A lot of toppers and shirts and stuff. So thank you to the guys at Battle Foam.
Absolutely. We have Best Coast pairings who make it so easy for us to line things up in the events. Definitely, as we have been saying throughout the show, if you are in Plains of War, get yourself on Best Coast right now and signed up.
Or any of the bunker busters. They're all up there.
If you're on the busters, do it.
Age of Sigmar, 40k, everything. So.
It makes it a lot easier for us, and it makes it a lot easier to advertise and get more people interested when you see more people signed up. We have CM Engrave, who I assume is doing our trophies.
All our plaques every year. So.
Wonderful. And then I Want That Stuff. Wonderful sponsor out of Brandon. They do the events out there. Definitely check them out if you are in the area. Highly recommend gaming there. It is just fantastic. And that leaves us with AYB Online, which is a longtime sponsor who has helped us with all this wonderful equipment.
Yeah. We are able to do the video casting that we do because of their generous donations.
The quality of it as well.
Quality, yeah. Absolutely. So
I think it cut a couple years off our learning curve by having that.
A little bit.
I think so.
Yep.
Saved us a lot. Allowed us to advance faster.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yes.
Exactly. So big thank you for always being there for us.
Yeah. All right, that's our show. That's our sponsors. Make sure you like us on Facebook and give us a review. Like us on Twitch and give us a review on all the social media because we've got contests for 25% codes that I forget the exact details of. But you do that, you'll be entered for the 25% off code for Planes of War. Next week, we've got Cliff Stornalon of Games of the North, also one of our Kill Team League players. He's going to be talking about his experiences as a seasoned gamer, but new to Kill Team. Next week's all about Kill Team, so if you've been curious, tune in. We'll be talking about that.
How many players are we at?
We are at 29 of 30.
29 of 30. And honestly, my favorite thing about it is, while it's an easy step into 40K, it's cheap and all those great things, the fact that over 50% are players that are new
Yes.
to maybe not tabletop gaming, but to the 40K universe in general is honestly really cool. So
Yeah.
It's very encouraging, and it's why I was saying Kill Team is my absolute favorite gateway. It is the best way to get them in.
And which is why we're so hoping, what is it, Warhammer with the Age
Warcry.
Warcry, yes.
We hope Warcry kind of does the same thing for Age of Sigmar, maybe dips people's
We need
toes
something
in.
to get a little traction before you do the big steps.
Yeah, so, no, it's really cool. So it's a great game.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Sorry, back.
That's all good.
Okay, good.
That's Fabio. That's General Douglas McEldar. I'm producer Josh. Give me the catchphrase.
Remember, if you're not rolling ones, you're cheating.
That's it. That's us. I'm going to hit the button now.
There it is.